Are you ready for this? We are going to do bulk actions. Checkboxes next to each row, where you click a checkbox, you can click a couple, and then you can delete them in bulk, or you can export them to a CSV. Pretty common stuff, pretty common need, but actually not that easy when you do it right. So let's start by doing it simply, and that's going to be simple because I called it simply. And then we're going to get into some more advanced stuff like check all and select all, and that's when things get real wild. But let's do it. Let's just do a basic like row of checkboxes, click them, build up an array of IDs, and then perform some bulk actions. That's going to be step one here. All right, we're going to need, what are we going to need? We're going to need some checkboxes. So let's go down to our table. Here's our table, and we're going to add a new heading before title. And this heading is going to be, I think, what are we going to do with this heading? I think we might just get rid of this whole thing. And let's do a x input.checkbox. Okay. And let's see what that looks like. All right. It's taking up a lot of space. Why is it taking up that much space? Maybe because we need to add our next cell. So here's the first cell, which is the title. Let's do this. And then we'll do our x inputs or input.checkbox here. And okay, that's much more reasonable. They still take up a little bit too much space. So I think I'm going to make, what are we going to do? Let's give this cell a padding to the right of 0. And then we'll also give this heading a padding to the right of 0 and then a width of 8. And it just conveniently looks perfect. It's almost like I've done this before. That's kind of amazing. All right, so we have our input checkbox. We didn't even need to add that yet because we're not even using that yet, but whatever, I added it. So here is our input checkbox for each row, and this is what we care about right now. So hopping over to the data side of things, we're gonna need a new piece of data, and this is gonna be called, we could call it selected. Should we call it selected? Yeah, we'll call it selected. Okay. So selected is an array, and this is going to be an array of IDs, of transaction IDs. So, and maybe we'll put this above filters to be a little more aesthetic. It kind of goes down and then to the big array in yellow and whatever. Okay, so we have selected, and now to bind to selected, I really love this. You can just do this with if each one has a unique value. So if we echo out like transaction ID, this is great. I'm going to JSON out selected so you can see what I'm talking about. It might not work because I'm actually echoing between rows. Yeah, it's not going to work. Let's do it here. Okay. So see this array? I click and bam, check it out. We are getting an array. And then if we uncheck one, it disappears. This is the kind of thing that, oh man, if you knew how much work goes into making something like that work. I basically, it's been a long journey to get all the wire models to work perfectly. But yeah, I just took Vue.js and looked at like exactly how Vue handles every wire model case or every X or V model case and just tried to replicate it in Livewire. And I'm pretty freaking happy with it. I like that a lot. Makes it so easy. All right, so that's that. We checkbox to selected with transaction ID. One quick thing here that I didn't do before and I should have. Whenever you're looping through elements that are going to change, in our case they do with the pages, I wonder what's going to happen here. If I have this checked and I go to the next page, okay, it does work. All right, it does work for some reason, but let's just pretend it doesn't because this is another best practice to add wire key and then some unique key. For each row, just so that Livewire knows that when you hit the next page, you don't just want to change every item inside of these rows, you want to replace them completely, which we don't know if it actually did. So and we also want to like prefix this because maybe you might have wire key of ID somewhere else. So let's say table row, we can just say row hyphen transaction ID. Okay, that's just like a best practices thing. You'll see that in the docs. Same thing within Vue.js, when you add, or Alpine, when you add key to any loop. It's really important. Okay, so that's it for checkboxes. Let's add a bulk action for those. So up here we have next, and then, or new, right? Before new, we're going to add a drop down. So let's do this. We're going to say X drop down. And then inside of X drop down, we're going to have X drop down dot item. Okay. And then inside of item, this one's going to be export. This one's going to be delete. And okay. So we got a few things going on here. We're going to have to investigate. What's the drop down title? Let's see what drop down takes. It takes a label. So I could have guessed that. This is going to be bulk actions. Okay, and then that's all aligned well, and now we're back to business. If we wanted a little more space between here, we could do our space X2 or something like that. Okay, and then we have export and delete, and of course we want to add little icons here. So let's do X icon dot trash. We're also going to make these pretty light. So we'll say text cool gray to 192, and we'll make this 4. Okay. And the export is going to be, what is export? Let's look through my icons because I only have the ones I need right now. Download. Okay. Download. And now there we go. Export and delete. We could use a little bit of space, and the centering's not totally perfect. So let's do this. Let's add class flex item center and then space X2. 2 is probably too much. No, it's not too much, but that's weird. Let's investigate here. What's going on? We have an SVG. We have an A tag, so maybe because export's not wrapped in a span, maybe we need to do that. Let's wrap that in a span, and let's see if this one works. Okay, it does work. We just need to wrap this in a span. Okay. All right, so there's our bulk actions, and we have export and delete. So right now, let's do, what should we do? Should we do delete? Yeah, all right, let's do delete first. So I'm going to pick on one of these. I click on this, and then I want to be able to hit delete and see it delete. So let's add, we're going to need to drop these into their own separate thingamajig because this is getting a little unwieldy, if you know what I'm saying. Okay. So we have export and delete. Let's take this delete button. We're going to make these buttons, by the way. They're links by default, but if we add type button, then they turn into buttons. I don't know if you saw before, but those were A tags, so now they're button tags. All right, so now these are buttons, and we can add our where click export, and then where click delete. All right, and then we go to dashboard, and where should we do this? Should we do this all at the top or at the bottom? Let's do it at the top, right above sorting. No, let's do create, edit, save. Let's do above create. And then, whatever, I guess this is where we're doing it. This is going to be delete. Okay. So maybe we should call this delete selected. That's probably a little bit better. And then we'll want export to be export selected as well. Okay, delete selected and export selected. And so now let's do something like transaction, find, or we're going to want to get, is it find many? Is it find many? That's what we want, right? Oh, I don't know, whatever. This selected. Okay, and this is an array of keys. So transaction, find many, and then selected. So these are all the transactions. And then we can do this. All right, so let's see if it works. Let's delete these two bad boys. Delete. All right. Method delete does not exist on a collection. Oh, because find executes the query and actually gets them back, and we don't want that. So instead we want, you could do where ID or where key, you know, it's up to you. So we'll say where key. Okay. And now let's try this. Let's remove Kathleen and Enrique. Delete. Sorry, Kathleen and Enrique, you're gonzos. So they're gone now. That's the way the cookie crumbles. So, Okay, we are going to implement this little export selected very briefly because we already did the delete selected. So let's do that. We're going to create export selected. Oh man, who knows how to use Vim? Not me, clearly. Export selected, and we're going to return a response that is a stream download. And inside of this, whatever we echo will be put inside of this file that we're going to name transactions.csv. Okay, and then inside here, we're going to echo transaction where key is this arrow selected to CSV, which is a macro that I have an app service provider called toCSV. Okay, so let's try this. We highlight a few of these bad boys, we hit export selected, and we get a CSV. And rather than opening up numbers, because I hate numbers, you're just going to have to assume that that works. So there we go. That's export selected. Next video, we're going to do check all and checked page. Thanks for hanging out. See you in the next video.